Well, thanks for stopping by, AJ. Appreciate you coming by. What we're going to do is I'll take you through CyberHawk's end-to-end process.
Okay.
Everything from the collection of the data to the processing of it, and then the analytics that happen in iHawk.
Okay.
And what we're going to show today is a little bit about image capture, but it just demonstrates that we can capture not just imagery, but video, thermal, LiDAR, corona information as well.
Okay.
So we're kind of midway into this particular inspection. It's a two-person operation. A lot of times in distribution, we go with single-person operations as well. So for example, in California right now, there are 50 crews out there that are single-person operations out in the field capturing information right now.
These crews, are they your crews or are these PG&E crews or utility crews? Or?
In this case, they happen to be our crews, but they can be the utilities crews. They could be other drone data service providers as well. And actually, we'll show that in iHawk.
So it doesn't have to be just your people or the utilities people. Someone else could be doing that service for them. You can process the information.
That's correct. And iHawk is an open solution that allows us to interface with other providers.
Okay.
So now we're starting the inspection here of this particular structure, and the first picture that's taken is the nadir from directly above. And that's actually important, and I'll show the importance of it when we get over to iHawk. But the crew goes through a shot sheet that's very structured. When they get their information from the enterprise asset management solution, they know, okay, I'm going to look at these structures and I have to inspect them. So they get their mission and they go about doing it in a very structured way, very efficient. So it's the same set of imagery taken each time, unless you can see that particular structure up there is in the tree.
Right.
And if they can't fly safely, then they won't be able to get that imagery.
Okay.
But in this case, you can see that they get one from above, from each angle, and capture what we refer to as a spherical.
So I know you mentioned it earlier, so the drones themselves, these are your drones?
We own the drones.
So the camera configuration is set up fit for purpose depending on the application?
That's correct. Right. So we have particular drones, so we focus on a number of things. The planning, because it's one thing to have a two-person crew out there, it's quite another thing to have 50 people out there spread across a large territory. Pilots, making sure that they have the right certifications. The payloads, as you indicated, about which cameras do we have, or which data capture devices do we have, and the permissions, because sometimes they might be in restricted airspace, they could be close to an airport, a military base, and they may need permission from the actual landowners in many cases. So
you would do all of those pre-planning checks and stuff for the utility?
Correct. That's one of our differentiators, is that we handle all the logistics and we know how to scale that for large operations.
Right. Oh, interesting. Very good.
Yeah. So now that we've captured that imagery, let's go ahead and take a look at it and see what it looks like inside iHawk.
Right, yeah.
So what we have here is a distribution network. So you can see that a number of structures have actually been identified already. Now I'll tell you a little bit about what this looks like. So as we scroll in, any asset that is a gold camera on a black background, that mission hasn't been flown yet. And it could be for a number of reasons. Could be they didn't have some of the permissions.
Right.
Could be that they didn't have the ability to capture it for any number of logistical reasons. But that is what that means.
Right.
The black camera on a gold background means we actually have data associated with that.
And the timeline of that could be, like, is that what you're saying, it's just been done, or are you saying we've done it before so we have some information to look at?
We have information to look at now.
Okay.
And then the red camera on a white background means that concerns about that asset have been raised.
Right.
And then the ones that are the white camera on the red background are those concerns have been confirmed, usually by a supervisor.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is come in as an inspector to begin with, and I'm going to take a look at one of these particular assets here. So if we scroll in a little bit, we'll be able to see an asset, and we'll look at it, again, how it looks inside of iHawk in this case. So what you'll see here is that we've got a number of images that have been taken, and one of those images that you can see is the nadir shot from directly above that particular structure. Now here's why this is important, because as we capture the data, I don't know about you, but when I go on vacation and I take a bunch of pictures, they're all in obscure names. They say DSC underscore 14083, and there are hundreds of them.
Right, for sure.
We ingest thousands of images or other data sources every day.
Every day? Wow.
Every day.
Okay.
And in fact, we just had a customer ingest over 80,000 images in one day. So you can imagine this becomes a little bit of a data collation and correlation issue. When we take that nadir shot, we know this is a new asset.
Okay.
And it's associated with the asset ID that came from the enterprise asset management solution. And that's how we associate it with the distribution network assets up and downstream as well.
Are there, so that's impressive amount of image capture or image ingestion. Are there limits here, or are you just scaling the solution depending on the application?
We, iHawk is SaaS-based, and we configured this so that it automatically scales up and down as the customer needs are required.
So flexible to meet the needs.
Correct, yes. So what I'll do is I'll explain a little bit about how, again, I'm going to be initially in the persona of an inspector.
Right.
So when we came out, we saw there are a bunch of structures on the network that need to be actually inspected, that we've captured imagery. This happens to be one. And as I mentioned, the nadir indicates this is the beginning of the rest of the imagery associated with this structure. So if we look at this, we can actually start to interrogate this image. And you can see this is one of those shots that we have associated with it. The very first thing that, as utility guys, that we would probably recognize, there's quite a bit of vegetation here.
Right.
So in this case, the inspector actually may look at that and say, we probably need to get vegetation management out there, but that's a different department. However, we democratize data inside iHawk, so the vegetation management group can look at this as well as the asset management group.
Okay.
So
this could be linked in all the way from the work and asset management through vegetation. So this is not just routine inspections. This can be done on if you like a priority schedule based on any issues you're finding that are captured in other activities, maybe on the lines, etc.
that's correct.
Wow.
And in
Okay.
fact, we have one of our largest customers, their vegetation department has found that they've saved over 25% on their O&M in avoided truck rolls because they had vegetation, tree trimming or overgrowth that they had scheduled, and once they look at the imagery, they're able to say, you know what, it's not as bad as what we thought.
Right.
So we can actually save money and get those crews to focus on other areas that are more important in that case.
Good.
But maybe the inspector says, you know what, I still want to flag this to the vegetation management group, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight this. And what I'll do is crop this, just like you would on a phone or an iPad, and we'll say that this is associated with tree or vine, and that it's something that somebody should look at in terms of overgrowth. but it doesn't look that bad right now. We probably just want to say, okay, within 12 months. We have, a number of different options there, and we could actually issue a specific date if we wanted to as well.
And those categories or the time-bound parameters, that's all customizable for my needs as a utility?
Correct.
Okay.
Those are all customer defined in that case. So we'll say, okay, we're going to remove that and trim it within the next 12 months.
Okay.
And we'll go ahead and save that. And once we've saved that, we'll come back to the entire inspection, but we'll continue on with the rest of the asset interrogation at this point. So if we look at this one, some of this looks a little bit corroded, but this particular angle, I can't tell for sure. And as an inspector, I want to look at an angle that I can really get at because I want to highlight this for the people that are actually going to do the work. So this crossbar from the back angle looked a little corroded, but as I look at it here, it's actually not that bad. However, what I am going to look at a little bit more closely is this particular insulator because there looks like there's some fraying there, and I'm going to highlight that as something that needs to be worked on.
Now, generally, I mean, that looks impressive, that resolution and clarity. Is that pretty standard now?
For us, it is. This is a differentiator for iHawk. We have the ability to get very close visual inspection. Again, going back to the payload, we know what the inspector and what the supervisor what their decisions are that they need to make on the endpoint, and so we know how to streamline all of our processes, including the pilots being very good at their data capture on the front end.
There's a skill there for sure.
So we're going to go ahead and say that this is broken or damaged, and again, it didn't look that bad. We're just going to say, myself as an inspector, I'm going to say, you know what, within the next 12 months, and we'll save that. And once it's saved, I'm going to look at the rest of the imagery, and it looked okay. So I'm satisfied with that, and I'm going to update the inspection completely and explain that, as an inspector, now I'm going to just highlight that the inspection is complete and send it on to my supervisor. So I'll just say that it's completed at this point.
So as you're doing that, just a quick question. So that work that you've deferred for 12 months, that can now be fed straight back into the asset management system to create the work order.
That's right. And in fact, I'll kind of take you through the entire flow. It's a great question, though. So the inspection is completed. You can see that we've highlighted a couple of things there. We're going to raise the concern at this point and update this particular inspection. So now that I've completed that as an inspector, I'm going to move along to the next asset and continue on with my day. So the supervisor comes in, and the supervisor sees there's quite a bit that's gone on here. By the way, you could see that asset that we were just on changed from black on gold to red on white. So a concern has been raised. The supervisor probably doesn't want to have to go through all of the assets all over again, because that's what they have the inspectors for. The supervisor may come in and say, I just want to see what concerns have been raised. So I'm going to run the concerns report. And what I can do there is I'll just actually scroll down, and you can see that those particular concerns, I'm going to minimize this, these were actually raised just now.
Right.
And as a result, now I as a supervisor can come in and I can say, oh, okay, well, this inspector raised this. Let's go ahead and see what's going on in here. So all I did was click on that, and I can see, oh, you know what? There are some cropped images there, and now I can get into a little bit more about what the actual inspection looks like. So if I go to the inspection, I can see, the inspector brought up something associated with the tree and vine. So if I click on that, it'll actually bring up the cropped image that I took earlier. So I don't have to go through and do my own cropping. I could see what they came up with. That's right. And so I can look at that and say, yeah, that's probably a good assessment that they should trim it within the next 12 months. That works well.
So with these, I like that concern report, that's very useful. Is there a way with those concern reports, I don't know whether it's on the screen, but we're doing some priority orders, right? This is very concerning. This is concern 12 months. Is it just that timing field that you use?
That's right. You can filter it by importance,
okay.
Or by criticality, or even by the date associated with the work
Okay.
orders as well.
And that's good because, obviously, if I've got a guy out in the field somewhere, we can look at the location and
Exactly.
just, hey, while you're there, do this.
Exactly. You're in the neighborhood, so
Yeah.
go and do this.
Right.
So I can also see that this particular inspector raised an issue associated with this conductor. And when I look at it, I'd say, wow, he said to replace that within 12 months, but actually we've had a few of these fail. So I, as the supervisor, am going to say, actually, it's within 3 months because we've had a lot of this cause issues. Our SAIDI and CAFE numbers have been impacted. Now I want to address this much more urgently. And even though I said within 3 months, I know that we've got some materials that have been ordered
Right.
already. So might as well take care of that actually by the end of next month.
Okay.
So when I save that, it's going to prompt me, do I want to save that or not? So I've modified that inspection, and these were the concerns that were raised, and I as a supervisor have made one modification, kept the other one, and I'm going to go ahead and confirm that concern. It's going to prompt me. It won't just let me do it. That's a good thing. So supervisor, I'll just say I've escalated the conductor. Escalation on conductor. And once I have that, now I should be able to update it.
Yep.
So once it's updated, I can go ahead and close this. And once that's closed, if I ran the concerns report again and scroll down to it, we'll be able to see that the concerns have been confirmed, and that all has been updated now. Now, a couple of things that...
So there's a workflow behind there to make sure that you've confirmed it, and now we can go on to actually create the job.
That's right. So here is what happens now. And if we go ahead and refresh the screen here, we'll be able to see that the concerns, that particular asset has the proper designation associated with the confirmed concern there. So this is what we were just working on right there. Here's what happens from here. The outflow from iHawk will go to a few different places. The vegetation management group will get that imagery and say, okay, they'll have access to it via iHawk, be able to say, okay, we're going to prioritize that. The workforce management solution will say, oh, you know what, we've got another one of these conductors that needs to be addressed, so let's go ahead and incorporate that into our workflow. Right. And then the enterprise asset management system will obviously have the asset ID associated with it, so that closed loop goes through the entire process. Once that work has been done, the utility may want us to go back and inspect it again,
Right.
and that's that entire feedback loop, and then we're able to say, okay, we actually got the results that we're looking for, and you can see it much more clearly doing it from a UAS perspective rather than a ground-based inspection perspective.
So a couple of quick questions. So So first of all, I noticed the mapping technology you're using here. Is that you could adjust that as a utility if we're using some other tools, correct?
That's right. We're partners with Esri, so a lot of our customers use ArcGIS.
Okay. So GIS is flexible as well as the actual map underlay or overlay.
That's correct.
Right.
And in fact, the GIS system, we have a way to. We've found that many GIS systems have data that isn't accurate.
For sure, yeah. Typical, very typical.
The asset ID associated with it may have a lat long that isn't exactly placed right where we anticipated it. Within iHawk, we can actually go in, if I bring this asset up in particular again, and we could say, it was supposed to be here, but actually, you could see all the arrows pointing to a different spot. So what would have the lat long associated with it? The nadir.
Right.
And that's another use case for it. So we know what the lat long is associated with that, and we can actually modify that asset ID to be adjusted so that we've got the right lat long, and then that's another interface to the GIS system. So an ancillary benefit of iHawk is that we're able to capture the right lat long and validate that in the GIS system and push accurate data into the GIS.
Last question. This looks good. So last question is, with your customers, what's the ROI like? Under a year typically? Or?
We've found that the ROI is definitely under a year, and it actually gets richer the more departments that use iHawk. So as I mentioned, we democratize the data so that multiple departments can leverage the same information. And as a result, the ROI on iHawk is very quick, and the more they use it, the quicker it gets.
Okay. That's great.
Super. Well, I appreciate you coming out today and spend a little bit of time. Loved asking your questions and answering your questions for you. And
thank you. Very, very good. Very exciting. Very simple. And I think you can definitely see how this applies to all the other technologies that we're talking about in managing distribution grids.
Oh, for sure. We definitely we recognize that there's an ecosystem in place, and that we need to be good partners with our valued customers, but also the ecosystem that provides EAM, WFM, and GIS technologies as well.
Great. Thanks for your time.
Super. Thank you. Appreciate it.